This is the story of a 1991 Subaru Legacy that received a second lease on life. Inspired by the ProDrive Legacy RS that brought Colin McRae his first WRC victory, we'll be building this old car into a budget racer. But the best part of any journey is the people you meet along the way. Today we're in a remote part of Canada to meet with Michael Krastman, an enthusiast that defies the stereotype.
I live in Caramias, British Columbia, Canada. We are in an area that's the northern tip of the Sonoran Desert, and consequently we get hot summers. It can be 40 degrees here. This particular place where our house is quite windy. I believe Caramias means the meeting point of three winds in Indian terms. And right now it's pretty cold, and it's going to get colder. We went down to -21 last year, so I expect something similar this year, but maybe not as much snow. A couple of decades ago, I was up in Haida Gwaii, and I test drove, really as a courtesy. I was up there with my girlfriend, and we were allowed to use the car of one of her friends. It was, I believe, a GL wagon. And we went camping a couple of times in that car, and I couldn't believe the grades. It could go up and down. Down is always easy, but up was scary. And it did so well that I thought, this is a really neat car. And it stayed with me, that memory. And ultimately, when I had to replace my little Honda, I also was getting married. And so I thought I need a vehicle with a bit more space. And so I choose the Impreza wagon because it also, well, it worked better for me. I started off wheels and tires, then I did the brakes, then I started with suspension mods. I got a few bits and pieces from the Subaru dealership. The front seats were WRX seats, which came out of somebody else's car. The original seats were a bit like planks. I've never felt the need to buy anything really more aftermarket. I think these seats are nice, and I also think they're very handsome, and that's why I converted the interior to what amounts to the old WRX interior. And there's other things that I've done too. The steering wheel, for instance, I got a Momo shift knob, I got the 6 CD changer. So in some ways I was kind of building my own WRX. Unfortunately, unlike Tim Taylor, I don't have the power. So yeah, intake I did, and then of course the Borla exhaust and Random Tech, and also Cobb catback. But I found that just having made those mods, without actually doing anything to the heads, the pickup on the car was much improved. And the car, in virtually all gears, revs pretty freely to 6,000. So in many ways, I'm quite satisfied with the power. But power is addictive, and it's always nice to have a little bit more. I always liked the bug-eye look. But I found that when I saw the projector beam headlights on the bug-eye, which was available through, I mean, if you bought Japanese, you could get it. I thought, well, that's what I'd like to get. And it turns out that you can buy the European domestic spec lights, which are STI lights. And then all you have to do is you have to change, in order to get HID, you have to change the guts and put in HID aftermarket parts. So that's what I did. It was quite a long process and did not go without any hiccups. But now that I've got them, I'm very happy with them, and they have proven to be essentially trouble-free. My wish list is probably an engine from, say, TechWorks Engineering in Calgary. That would be great. But I have a feeling that reality will intrude, and the best I can expect is to have ported and polished heads, and then just, you know, do the thing with oversized valves, high rev valve springs and that sort of stuff. So it'll be the top end that gets taken care of, and the bottom end, well, you know, so it doesn't rev to 8,000. That takes money to make an engine rev like that. I came into this totally ignorant, and I really learned by talking to people. What I found is that over time I tried to average out what products are being used a lot, under what circumstances, and how credible is the source of this information. And I found that to be a reasonable guide. For instance, I knew about IBAC's reputation. I knew I didn't want to slam the car. I like the low look, but there's also such a thing as real-world problems. So I went with IBAC springs. And then the question was, well, okay, what dampers do you choose? And, you know, a lot of people don't really know. They just throw parts together, but you can't just throw parts together. You have to match them, and that's where the brilliance of engineering comes in. So that's why, if you can, buy stuff that comes as a unit, as a system, which is why I bought Wilwood brakes, designed for the WRX. Now, I had to replace my drum brakes at the back, but I have no regrets, you know. Very good braking, and they fit. So this sort of thing is really important, and the less you know, the more you need the help of that sort of approach. The more you know and the more capable you are, well, you can build your own parts. That's not who I am, though. I don't know enough to do that. So, you know, my mechanic at Subaru, he said, you know what, try Tokikos. They're non-adjustable, but they have a fantastic reputation. They've been in the car since that time, which is over 10 years. I've never had a problem with them, and they work quite well with the IBACs. I mean, maybe there could be better. I don't know about it. All I know is that this car handles pretty decently, and I've had compliments on its handling. So that tells me that probably it's a good combo.
So how about our project legacy? What's Michael's opinion on our old car?
I really like what's probably going to come out of that car. I think since I tried it today, besides the clutch, which I didn't care for, I found it to be a really peppy car. And although we haven't done a side-by-side, you know, race in order to see what's faster, I got the impression that the Legacy was faster. In a smaller engine, but 500 pounds, it makes such a difference.
So what did we learn from Michael? Unless you're an engineer, trust parts that work together as a system. Don't just buy whatever and hope it will do what you want. With that in mind, we'll soon meet a tuner that did in fact engineer his own parts. Then it's time to see which is really quicker in a straight line. But first, this old Legacy needs to get some upgrades. We head to Primitive Racing in Portland, Oregon to get the works. Then it's off to All-Wheel Drive Automotive in Kirkland to show the engine some long-needed loving. Thanks for watching. Be sure to comment and subscribe to this video. We've got a lot more to come on the Legacy project.
Actually, I don't know. Tight center down there, isn't it? Yeah. Clip, clip.